I'd like to call to order the January meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. With the people in the IT section, my mic's on, and apparently I'm not being heard. Moving right along. Okay, we're ready. Once again, I'm convening the January meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. The first item on our agenda is what we call the consent calendar. We have all had a chance to review the packets, several pages long, that deal with the minutes, the claims, the various financial statements, etc. I'd like to call for a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Any questions from anybody on the board or in the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously carried. Or no? Israel, you yes?
You approve of the consent
Okay.
calendar? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, unanimously carried. We next go to public hearings and appearances. The first item we usually always have is the public comment period. Now, in this section, we try to ask that people comment on issues or areas or agenda items that are not on the agenda, that just want to give us some public comment outside of agenda items. And then we'll take up comments as we reach each agenda item. It makes for a more speedy and, I'd say, efficient meeting. So is there anybody that wants to comment on anything to the Park Board about anything outside of agenda item this evening? Seeing none. We then move on to any comments from the Parks Commission. Anybody have anything?
I don't
Nope.
have anything to say.
We then move on to sort of the awards section of our agenda, which starts with the Bravo Award. Sarah Owen. Sarah, would you introduce your guests?
Sure. Okay, Sarah Owen, Community Relations Coordinator. Every month we like to recognize outstanding volunteers with the department with our Bravo Award, and we're kicking off 2020 with a joint recognition, something that's a little unusual, but this is Eunice Pak and Saojin Kwan, and they have been volunteering with us since the fall of 2018, starting with our annual Skate and Scare event. And the reason we wanted to recognize the two of them together is because these are two friends and schoolmates who regularly sign up for our community events together, and I would say that they are just standout volunteers in terms of their positivity and their attitude alone. They are just always so friendly and so happy and engaging, especially when helping at our events that involve the smaller kids, and they just are very motivated. They are always willing to pitch in where needed, even if it's not the most glamorous task, if it's foul weather or whatever they're willing to brave. And it's just always such a joy to have them as part of the community events. Kim, do you have this slide for them too? Oh, thanks. Just for a little photo op, there you go. But yeah, they always bring in positive attitudes. They've helped with our Winter Palooza, our Children's Expo, Skate and Scare, as I mentioned, and also Saojin has signed up for our Banneker After School, Banneker at the View program, doing after-school tutoring. So each of these ladies, over the course of their time with Parks, has put in over 40 hours with the department, and that is no small feat given that they are both high school students at Bloomington High School South. So the fact that they are giving their afternoons and weekends to us is very appreciated. And I will sometimes, when I tell them that, tell a volunteer that they're being recognized with the Bravo Award, I will send them a couple of questions in terms of what keeps you coming back to Parks, and is there any particular event you like to help with? And I just thought I'd read a quote from one of them saying that the reason they continue to volunteer with Parks and Recreation is because people are so inviting, and they make sure that we each play our part. They also worry about our well-being and make sure that we get a break when needed, which might sound a little funny, but sometimes at our community events, they're so populated and so busy that at the most recent Trick or Treat trail, these girls were trail guides for our little kids in costume going down the trail, and they were just hustling from one group to the next because it was just a nonstop crowd. So they're so wonderful, and we're so grateful for them. So with that, I'd like to recognize Eunice Pak and Saojin Kwan.
Without the volunteers, this department couldn't even begin to do what it does for the community.
I'm sorry, I'm going to take a minute to embarrass Eunice. So she's in my AP Lang and Comp class at Bloomington South, and she could give her speech to the class on anything she wanted, and she gave a persuasive speech on why people should volunteer.
Oh, I didn't even
Yeah,
see that. That's
so
wonderful.
it was
Thank
excellent.
you.
Yeah, so thank you for all your
Thank you,
service,
ladies.
both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, we also in this section of the agenda introduce new staff. We're going to start with a new urban forester, Erin Hatch. Erin, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Erin Hatch. I'm the new urban forester for the city of Bloomington. I recently completed a
Can we all hear?
master's.
Is the mic on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I recently completed a master's degree program at Indiana University's O'Neill School. And prior to my master's program, I worked as a planting manager with an urban forestry nonprofit in San Francisco. I'm looking forward to working with the city.
Well, we certainly welcome you, and we'll look forward to some of the things that you're going to bring to the forestry operation. We acknowledged Lee Huss retired at our last meeting, or the meeting before last, and he'd been here quite a while. And we have a young, good replacement that's going to take things in directions that we'll be quite pleased with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another staff member, Sonia Pope.
We don't have one this time. Yeah.
My name is Sonia Pope. I'll be working as an intern in health and wellness and community events this spring. I am currently a candidate for a Master of Public Health degree, specializing in Parks and Recreation at Indiana University, graduating in July 2020. During my internship, I'll be assisting community events and wellness programs such as Get On Board Active Living, the Active Living Coalition Health Fair, the Bloomington Street Fair, and health education with the Banneker Community Center. My desire to intern for the Parks and Recreation Department comes from a combination of my degree focus, being a resident of Bloomington, and the fact that I have learned that outstanding reviews of your department. I have a variety of interests in the field of parks and recreation, and I believe that this internship will allow me to gain an in-depth perspective of how a successful Parks and Recreation Department operates and enhances the health of its local community. I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to intern for the Parks and Recreation Department, as I have admired the parks, events, and other resources that are provided to community members over the 7 years that I have lived in Bloomington. I feel very humbled and lucky to be a part of your team, and I am committed to the department's efforts in making Bloomington a better place to live, work, and grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Big welcome. Okay, the first item on our business agenda is election of officers. As chair, I'm taking the prerogative to offer nominees for next year. I'd like to nominate Kathleen Mills for president, myself as vice president, and Secretary Kim Clapp. Do I have a motion? I'm going to make that a motion. I move that we accept this slate. All those in favor, please say, oh, we need a second.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
A bit of a hurry to leave the position. Kathleen, it's all yours.
Right away.
Congratulations.
Okay. Okay, so then we move on to an item that got bumped to this meeting from the last meeting, which is the review of Resolution 20-01 to appropriate the, oh, sorry, no, this was different, sorry. To appropriate the Parks Non-Reverting Fund. Paula, jumping ahead there.
Thank you. I'm Paula McDevitt, Director of the Department, and this is an annual task that we bring before you the first meeting of the year, and this is to appropriate the Parks Non-Reverting expenditures for the fiscal year 2020. Just as a brief reminder, I presented the 2020 non-reverting budget to you last fall. This is a budget that you oversee as Park Board, and it is part of your packet every month, and we have to start the year by you appropriating these funds so that our staff can begin to operate their programs. This is done through Indiana Code 3610-52, and the non-reverting fund is our enterprise fund that we deposit fees, charges, donations, and grant monies. So as part of the resolution, which is the first one of the year, 2001, I have listed all of the program areas that generate non-reverting funds: administration, health and wellness, marketing, aquatics, Frank Southern Ice Arena, golf services, natural resources, youth services, Twin Lakes Recreation Center, community events, adult sports, youth sports, Banneker Community Center, operations, urban forestry, and the 2020 Summer Food Service Grant and MCCSC grant. And that is for a total of $2,248,265. And so in essence, this is the expense budget that staff prepared, and this is there based on their actuals in 2018, how business went in 2019, and what they expect. Hopefully we have a year of good weather and lots of registrations and good attendance at our pools and on the golf course, and lots of rentals that will generate this revenue for our non-reverting fund. So again, I am asking for your approval of our non-reverting 2020 funds.
Okay, any questions or comments about that? No? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 20-01 to appropriate the Parks Reverting Fund for 2020.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, oh, sorry, right, I'm the president. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, motion unanimously carried. Okay, now we have the item that was moved along from last time. So review of the food and beverage artisan 2020 fees for the farmers market, and that's Becky Higgins.
Good afternoon. Becky Higgins, Recreation Services Division Director.
Okay.
Staff recommends the approval of the 10% of gross pricing for the food and beverage artisans for the 2020 market. The various revenue lines are deposited into the non-reverting farmers market revenue account. A little background: over the past few years, food and beverage artisans have requested to lower the fees they pay to participate and sell at the market. Fees include a weekly stall fee ranging from $10 to $499 per vendor, depending on how many times they sold at market. In addition to that fee, vendors paid 10% of their gross sales to the Parks Department monthly. These revenues were designed to help the farmers market meet their cost recovery goal of 100% as set by the Park Board of Commissioners. In 2019, as a result of discussions between Artesian staff and Park Board approval, the stall fees were removed, and the food and beverage artisans, formerly the prepared food vendors, continued to pay the 10% of gross fee. During the 2019 market season, the city entered into 17 contracts with food and beverage artisans. The food and beverage artisans requested lower fees in order to be more equitable with farm vendor fees. The Farmers Market Advisory Council recommended that their fee be lowered to 5% of gross sales. Complete budget information for 2019 was not available at that time that the Farmers Market Advisory Council made their recommendation to park staff that the vendor fee be lowered to 5%. In consideration, park staff took a closer look into the budget information from 2016 to 2019, as well as the projected budget for 2020. So what you're looking at right now is 2019. And in 2019, the cost recovery goal was not met. In fact, the budget operated in an overall deficit of $55,250, with a cost recovery of 63%. Budget information used in past several years was based on direct costs only. If both direct and indirect costs were used, the cost recovery rates would have been lower than the 100% for 2016, 17, 18, and 19. So now you see a 2020 projected budget. So lastly, we are projecting that the 2020 farmers market budget will operate again at a deficit, this time of $38,156, with a projected cost recovery of 76%. The past few years, the farmers market has not met cost recovery goals. To lower the fee more would make it more difficult to meet these goals. Staff will continue to review costs yearly, and in preparations for 2021 market season, staff will review both the farm vendor and food and beverage artisan fees in an effort to make these fees more equitable. We ask the Park Board of Commissioners review and evaluate the current cost recovery goal rate of 100% for future farmers market seasons. The last slide is the last 4 years of total revenue that was brought in by the food and beverage artisans. And the only thing that I would point out is that in 2019, that was when we removed the stall fee, which is why it says 0 for that. So the bottom line is the total revenue brought in over the last 4 years. The food and beverage artisans also requested a name change from prepared food vendors to the food and beverage artisans. Done. A seat at the Farmers Market Advisory Council, and the parks are asking for that approval this evening. There will actually be 2 seats on the Advisory Council. And increased marketing and social media presence, and the food and beverage artisans will be included in the Farmers Market marketing plan, which is being developed during this off-season. And in addition, and they wanted to be added to the farmers market mission statement, which basically was overhauled and redone, and that has been done as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, I guess, first of all, just thinking about a little bit of background, and looking at some other markets that are in the Midwest, I don't see a separation in other markets between prepared food vendors and people selling produce or fruit, or do you know historically, like, why has there been a separation of those two things?
Well, historically, we started with
Farmers, right.
farm vendors, and we had, if you go way back, the little cafe that was across the street in the church, if you go back to the site at the library, that was run by United Ministries. And then when we moved the market to Showers, they still stayed with it for a couple years, and then they moved out of it. It was just a sole one-person, one-organization concession, and we decided to try to bring in a few more. And we brought them in, I think, 1 or 2 the first year, and then increased each year afterwards until we got to where we were today. And the original reason for that was to help offset the cost for farm vendors that they paid for market. That was when we started. That was over 20 years ago. So we recognize that there has been a lot of growth in reputation of the food and beverage artisans and their presence at market. It still is a farmer's market with this as part of it.
Okay. Yeah, so, and I appreciate you kind of delineating the things that have been changed, the name of the prepared food vendors and the seats on the council. I think I am pretty hesitant on the 10%, just because I don't know, if you ask people today what they think they can buy at a farmer's market, I don't know, I mean, I'm just anecdotally, I think as many people are gonna say, I wanna be able to get a cup of coffee and a bagel as I wanna buy a bag of apples or cucumbers or whatever. I'm not sure the public's making a distinction, and I'm not sure why we have a distinction, I guess, is my first concern. And then my second is, in the list of other, all of these other cities in the farmer's market, there just doesn't seem to be anything that's as high as 10%. There's Champaign-Urbana and Madison, Wisconsin. Sorry, what's that? Cleveland, Covington, Kentucky. I mean, there's the highest I think I saw was close to about 500 or 600 for this summer. So I have a concern about the 10%.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, nobody likes to have money taken out of their budget, and we can see how you've come to rely on that revenue. And costs are increasing,
Right,
yeah, for 2020.
right.
So,
And we recognize that and fully intend to work this year to do it. It's just hard to make a decrease in that when we're running in a deficit.
Right.
And when we look back closer at our records that we have been running in a deficit, if all costs are considered. So that's where we stand on that. And the other markets that were explored or looked at, we don't know exactly comparing apples to apples.
Right.
Some of them were city-run, some of them are privately run, some of them are nonprofit-run. Some may have there was one that was the closest to ours that did have a cost recovery of 100% that I don't think they ever met. So it's, that fits into part of the whole description of everything too, is the cost recovery level. And if it is something that the Park Board of Commissioners feels, would like to review, we're definitely interested in discussing that further.
well, you're reading my mind, because that's what I was going to say is, if it's not 100%, cost recovery, then we're in a different, then we can explore other options, I guess. So if that's something we're willing to do. So other comments from board members? Les, you want to?
I'll reserve my comments till just prior to the vote.
Okay. Do you have any comments, Israel?
I would like more time to.
Okay, yes. Okay. All right. So, let's see. I guess we will go ahead and, you want to make a motion? Or,
I think you need
oh, sorry. Oh, of course, the public comment. I'm sorry. Yes, please, if you have public comment, approach the podium. We usually limit people to 3 minutes. Is that?
2 to 3.
2, yes. If you could tell us your name and sign-in sheet, great.
My name is Nelda Kol glazier. I've been going to the farmers market since the early 80s, and I support the reduction for the vendors because I feel like the vendors bring a lot of people to the market that wouldn't come to the market if the vendors weren't there. I both buy from the market, the fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as the vendors, but I think that the number up there was 17, and I think that's about 10% of the people that are at the market selling stuff, and I just think it's unfair to expect 10% of the people that are at the market selling products to pay 50% of the amount of money required to support the market. And so for me, I just think it's unfair and it's punitive to I know Maria, I know Katie, I know Eric, I buy from all of them, and I just think it's punitive to expect them to pick up the budget because they have.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's okay. Okay, my name's Eric Shetler. I'm the owner and baker with Muddy Fork Bakery. I'm here on behalf of all 15 of the food and beverage artisans who completed the 2019 season to ask you to reject the 10% fee on gross sales. And before I get too much into that, I just wanted to start off by expressing my sincere gratitude for your support for continued operation of the public market, both the commissioners and the staff. And I really believe that today's discussion in an open and public forum with an oversight body reinforces the value of our public institutions. My business, Muddy Fork Bakery, is one of 120 contracted vendors, or more than that, at the market. I personally paid 13% of the market revenues in 2019. Just my business, which was over $12,000 to vend at the market. My family makes less than the median income for a family of 4 in Monroe County, so those $12,000 are a big burden on the family and also on our small business. In contrast, I believe the most that a farm vendor would be asked to pay in rent for a full season is $648. I have to ask each of you to consider whether that's a reasonable and fair fee. Collectively, we make up 12% of the vendors, and I believe we've contributed 54% of vendor fees collected in 2019. We don't believe the 10% fee on gross sales is fair and reasonable, and that's why the 15 of us co-wrote a letter, which we delivered to park staff on October 8th. And it was addressed also to the Board of Commissioners, asking you to lower our fee, and our proposal it was to lower it to what it actually costs the city to run the market for us to provide the booth spaces. And we don't take lightly asking your intervention on this matter, but we do feel that we've been frustrated trying to work on this for 2 years, trying to engage in a productive dialogue with the park staff. And we're going to outline the good faith efforts that we made over the last 2 years. I'm going to begin, and Maria will pick up from there. Our first discussions with staff were in the late 2017 season. At that time, it was too late to consider changes for 2018. I hope it's already not too late to consider changes for 2020. I met twice with park staff in 2018, in July and in October, and I provided 10 possible proposals to improve the situation. The only proposal that was adopted was to get rid of the $10 per week fee that we were paying on top of the 10% fee. These discussions continued in 2019. Maria and Katie began meeting with staff and ultimately the advisory council. She'll tell you more about those efforts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Okay. So, good evening. My name is Maria Carlassare, owner of Piccoli Dolci, vendor at the market since 2012. As Eric said, through 2019, we continue to present our concern about the unbalanced system of vending fees to staff and to the Farmers Market Advisory Council. And we responded to requests for additional data, and we proposed some reasonable alternatives. And some of the research Katie from Needmore will present about other structures of other markets. But truth is that it wasn't until the end of November that we were actually able to reach you with our October's letter. And at that time, you requested a recommendation from the Advisory Council. And so on December 9th, the Advisory Council overwhelmingly approved a recommendation to eliminate the percentage fee on gross sales in the next few years, gradually, and to compromise at 5% for the 2020 season, for example. To us, it seems like a failure process that in 2019, we never heard a response or an unofficial statement from Parks and Recs. And none of the issues of economic equity and fairness are even considering their recommendation to continue the 10% fee, nor is the Advisory Council's recommendation, which you asked for in December or November. So we are disappointed. We're disappointed that Parks and Rec staff are not willing to work of any kind of compromise for the year 2020. And we did meet with Director McDevitt and Becky Higgins last week, trying to talk one more time. We are concerned because it seems that the outdated cost recovery model is precluding them from embracing the problematic issues of equity and fairness among micro vendors. We aren't satisfied by the promise of reconsideration in 2021 because we believe the basic financial fact of the Bloomington Community Farmers Market will remain honestly the same, namely that the market will still not be recovering 100% costs because there are so many new expenses and apparently, there's only that much that we can do. So we will not solve the problem even with our 10% fee. So, yay. Well, bottom line, we ask you to reject the continuation of the 10% of gross sale fee and to encourage staff to work towards a new approach. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Slawek. I'm the owner of Need More Coffee Roasters, and I'm here also representing the 15 food and beverage artisans. We did research on farmers markets, as you had mentioned earlier, in our region, pinpointing 7 markets comparable to our own, with around 100 vendors or more in cities similar in size to Bloomington, and with rules limiting vending to producers. None of them charge 2-tier pricing that is higher for food and beverage artisans than growers. All of them charge flat fees to every vendor, averaging $25 per week, which makes for a predictable budget for the parties running the markets and predictable fees for all of the vendors. Back when the community farmers market moved to the Showers Plaza, the mission for the market, which was 30 years old, I don't know, only connected growers and customers. The city then invited food and beverage artisans and applied a 10% of gross sales fee to help cost recovery. The food and beverage artisans vending area was viewed as an accessory to the market and expanded primarily to improve the market's cost recovery. Times have changed. The Advisory Council and the city staff in their January 9 board packet now recognize and acknowledge that the community farmers market is not only about farmers. The staff recommends approval of new mission statement that begins, I quote, to strengthen our local agriculture and food community by serving as a venue to nurture the direct positive relationships between farmers, food and beverage artisans, and customers, end quote. We have become an integral part of the market. We should no longer be asked to shoulder an outsized financial burden. That is why we are asking you to lower our fee to what it actually costs to provide our booth spaces. I ask you to reject the staff recommendation of 10% of gross sales fee for the food and beverage artisans. I'd also like to quickly add that while we did come to the table with wanting to be included in the mission statement, which was 40 years old and completely out of date, it should have been updated anyway. I'm glad that we're in it now, and that's wonderful. The $10, whatever it was, booth fee, on top of a 10% fee should have been waived a long time ago. Is it waived now? Yes, and that's great. We were being, taxed without representation on the advisory council. We asked to be on that, and they said yes. That should have also been done a long time ago. So while the city has been picking up many of the things we've requested, the 10% fee is what we're really concerned about. Now is your time to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Louise Miracle. Thank you for taking the time. I'm the owner and baker of Pie First Bakery, and I've been a vendor with the summer market since 2014. And again, we're representing all 15 food and beverage artisans of the community farmers market, and we're asking you to decline this motion to continue the current 10% of just the food and beverage artisans. I'm here to underscore the lack of equity when it comes to these fees being assessed. And just quoting from the December 9th, 2019 Farmers Market Advisory Council minutes, quote, "The prepared food space at the market has evolved over the years to become integral to the market and is an important part of the reason people come to the market. Their presence enhances the atmosphere of the market." And in fact, members of the council in that same meeting supported our requests, including, quote, "It would be wise for the city to invest to support the food and beverage artisans, even if we don't meet the 100% goal. The community farmers market has changed. Now all vendors are equal, and we 15 food and beverage artisans should no longer have to shoulder the financial burden of bringing in 1/2 of the gross revenue for the entire community farmers market. No other part of the market has ever had or has now a sole purpose of being a moneymaker to pay for costs of the market. Not the buskers, not the artists, not the musicians, not the tablers in Info Alley. So the food and beverage artisans shouldn't either. And so finally, just to make this a little tangible, let's just say for the sake of illustration that you make $100,000 a year as income. And after you've paid your mortgage and your rent, your utilities, the gas, food, maybe childcare, clothing, household upkeep and repair, and put something in your retirement and paid all your taxes, then you sit back and maybe you heave a sigh of relief because there is a little left over. But then someone knocks on your door and says, even after all these expenses, you still have to pay 10% of your income, and that's another $10,000. Would that put a serious crimp in your hope for savings? You bet. And that's what we have here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Nick Schultz. I own Brown County Coffee along with my wife, who couldn't be here tonight. Just wanted to offer a couple quick things. Thank you for letting me cut in line. I have to go to a basketball game after this for my kid down at Bachelor. Basically, I grew up in the sticks. I started roasting coffee because I'm good at fixing things, and coffee takes machinery, and you got to be able to oil stuff and put different machines back together when they break, and that's how I started roasting coffee, is basically buying junk machines and fixing them. And I always saw Bloomington as a place of culture. If you look around here, despite what people say in the news, Bloomington's a great place for multi-ethnics, and I feel like the farmers market is sort of indicative of everything that is good about Bloomington. And really, the Parks and Rec Department is supposed to support the culture of Bloomington and really what you do after work. Your job is to draw people to the community and give them something to do on the weekends. I have to admit, you do a great job. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. So I guess I feel like we're subsidizing that. The people that are bringing the culture to town are also the ones who are subsidizing the culture. All these different people that are part of our group are amazing people, and they bring a variety of stuff. So I hope that you reject the 10% and go Bulldogs. See you guys later.
Thank you. Good luck. Yeah, sure.
Good afternoon. I'm Suzanne Man. I am a member of the Farmers Market Advisory Council, but here today as a member of the community. First, thank you for your decision to continue management of the market. Today, you're addressing a request from I was calling them prepared food vendors, but they're food and beverage artisans, to consider a more equitable structure of their fees. The 116 farmer vendors' fees contribute just shy of 50% of the market's budget. The 17 food and beverage artisans are charged 10% of overall sales, contributing to just over 50% of the market's operating budget. I'm here to advocate for reducing the food and beverage artisans' fees this coming season by 5%, with the overall goal of moving towards a flat fee over the next 3 years. Eventually, their fees should be based on the size of their spaces and the additional services provided, like electricity and et cetera. Realizing that this change would negatively impact the market's goal of being financially self-sufficient, I have a suggestion. In 2002, the prepared food vendors, as they were called, became a part of the market. At about the same time, the Affair of the Arts set up their arts and crafts creations on the Showers Plaza, one Saturday per month after the market closed. The artists soon realized that setting up after the market goers had come and gone wasn't as profitable as they'd anticipated, and so they adjusted their hours to coincide with the market's schedule. This greatly improved their foot traffic and sales. This arrangement exists today, with approximately 33 artists paying a flat space fee, not a percentage of sales, to participate in the fair on the second Saturday of each month, May through October. They are undeniably dependent on the market for their viability. Why isn't the Fair of the Arts a part of the market budget? This change would not affect the farm vendors nor the artists' fees, but would begin to relieve the artisans' disproportionate burden of their current fee structure based on their percentage of sales. I urge you to consider making this change. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chester Layman. I'm a farm vendor at the Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and the winter market under Old Lane Orchard. And I previously would have leaned toward the opinion that farmers market is about farmers. And I've shifted somewhat in my thinking for the following reasons. Number one, I wasn't aware of the burden of cost on the food artisans as described previously. Secondly, like it or not, it's what our customers want. I think many of our customers really want to be able to come and have that food available as part of the Saturday experience. And then thirdly, at least to a certain degree, the food artisans are demonstrating what can be done with the food that the customers can buy in the market. At least 4 of the food artisans are fairly regular customers of ours, so they're buying our product that they're using in the things that they produce to sell. So that's a reason as well to think about the interrelationship there. So I'm grateful that they're there. I know it's taken farmers a little bit of time to come around to appreciating that and not seeing it only as competition, but also as a way of generating interest in the market as a whole and as a good Saturday experience. And so I lend my support to reducing that 10% fee. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cathy Akin. I have been on the Advisory Council for the Farmers Market for 6 years, but I've also been a longtime Farmers Market customer since it began back when it was behind City Hall there off of 3rd Street in the park. One thing that I wanted to point out is how much the food vendors add to the mix of the market. When we have out-of-town guests, and I know I'm not the only one that hears the same thing, they always try to work a visit into being in Bloomington on a Saturday, and it's not, let's just go to the farmer's market. It's, let's go to the farmer's market and have breakfast. Well, we're not breakfasting on raw apples, although they're very delicious, and carrots and celery and things like that. We're enjoying all the baked goods and wonderful beverages that we can get at the market. So to me, that really adds to the draw of the market. The other thing is, I guess, in a way, a kind of a cautionary tale. I'm worried that with everything that's going on with the atmosphere of the market, vendors, the prepared food artisan vendors, I know are looking at other locations for the coming season, because they're not as large or as well developed, but there are, on the outskirts, there are some other markets, and it worries me if some of our prepared food artisans decide to relocate. It might be a difficult thing to get them to come back to the market. So I just think that in light of everything that's going on with the market, we just can't afford the chance of losing a draw that would continue to bring people to the market for a very positive reason. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we start the people when they let them sign over there?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And just
Speed
start
it up,
the
sure. Maybe people who are behind the speaker could go ahead and sign in, just to make things a little bit more efficient. Yeah, thank you. Good idea.
I'm Deborah Piston-Hatwin. I'm also a longtime customer, and I also thank you for keeping the management of the market with the city. I would like today to reiterate the support that I expressed at the November 19th Board of Park Commissioners meeting for restructuring of the fees for the food and beverage artisans at the market. These vendors represent a diverse group of members of our community and contribute to what we want our market to be. That is, a place of community where people gather, chat, and converse, and enjoy the many different activities at the market. The inequity of the food and beverage artisan fees has been well documented. The market is a community resource of benefit to Bloomington citizens, and although a change in fees will affect the city's market income, I believe the market's community benefit justifies a reconsideration of the cost recovery goal of the farmers market. That is, that the market is more than a mostly individual benefit activity. For example, providing SNAP matching and other programs to increase food security for the community, among other things. And I hope that you will give due consideration to the artisans' request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Baier. I'm a resident of Monroe County and produce vendor at the Bloomington Farmers Market. I also work part-time on a local food grant project for the city of Bloomington. I'm here today to express support for the food and beverage artisans who have requested reduced farmers market fees. I sent a letter to all of you park commissioners about it yesterday, but wanted to stand up and share my perspective here as well. Personally, I think that food and beverage artisans should have higher fees than farm vendors because their businesses and inputs are less vulnerable to risk than farm crops are. However, the current 10% fee on their gross sales places an unfair and disproportionate burden on food and beverage artisans, and it creates a market operations budget that relies too heavily on a small group of vendors. The success of the farmers market as a whole depends on food and beverage artisans and local farmers collaborating fairly together. As such, I support the recommendation put forward by the Farmers Market Advisory Council to reduce the 2020 fees to 5% of gross sales and to set in motion a multi-year evaluation process to make the food and beverage artisan fees more equitable overall. I think part of this process for the upcoming market season could include setting a cap amount on percentage-based fees or to offer special reduced fees to food and beverage artisans who legitimately source a significant amount of their ingredients from regional farms. I also wanted to point out that in the city's new sustainability action plan, there is an entire chapter of ambitious goals related to developing the local food economy in this community. Healthy food access and local food supply chain development are the focus objectives of this plan, as they should be, but the creation of a truly sustainable food system includes the long-term development and viability of small food businesses that convert raw farm goods into value-added products like the food and beverage artisans do at market. So I believe that these kinds of businesses should be fostered and supported by the Bloomington Farmers Market. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Westgard. I noticed you've done some changes with the time, with a louder beeper and so on, and the display, so I appreciate that. I think you've done a good thing there. I think you can summarize the arguments made tonight on this point that the food artisans were created as a separate group because of historical reasons, but now that they're an integral part of the market, they want to be normalized in with the other types of vendors, and that makes sense to me. I mean, I'm always in favor of small businesses holding on to more money, and this is obviously a case of that. So I'll defer to others as to the exact amount, but in general, that's where my heart lies. What I wanted to point out is that there has been a tremendous amount of work put into the handbook for the farmers market. And there's a lot of provisions in there, not about financial aspects, that don't deal with the difference between a farm vendor and a prepared food vendor, but rather regarding how a vendor is obligated to interact with the public in order to treat the public with respect and to provide dignity. And later tonight, you're going to be asked to approve contracts for the food artisans that make no reference to that handbook. So all the work that's been done to improve the way we have vendors interact with the public went into the handbook and doesn't appear in the prepared food vendor contract. So yes, please normalize these vendors, but those contracts should show that they have the same dignity obligations to the public that all the other vendors do. And currently your contracts, the contracts being offered tonight, do have some other provisions, but there's no reason to have separate provisions. Offering the dignity to the public is the same whatever you're selling. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, hope everyone is having a good day today. I'm Jennifer with Feast, and I just want to thank you for allowing us all to speak and kind of address you with our concerns. We actually were one of the, I think it started off with Blooming Foods and the Bakehouse, and then Feast was maybe the third prepared vendor that came into the market. So we definitely were there at the beginning. And actually, the farmers market is kind of where we got our start. We didn't actually have a brick and mortar location. The farmers market kind of started that, and then we had a location thanks to the start we got doing the farmers market. So we definitely really appreciate everything the farmers market did for our business. So I kind of want to come at this from a different kind of point of view, as far as focusing on from a very business aspect of what a typical cost ratio is of what a vendor or someone that makes food can afford to pay in rent versus the profit margin. So a national standard of what anyone making food, preparing food, what the rent is on a national average is 3 to 6% of profits is what a restaurant needs to run at to be profitable, to be successful. So 6% would be on the high side if a restaurant's rent. Now I know it isn't exactly rent, it's kind of the same thing, but actually as prepared food vendors, we actually pay rent to you, plus we still have to pay rent for our physical location where the food is being prepared. So not only do we have the 10% fee from you, plus we have the rent we have to pay to actually make everything. So when that equals out, that might come to be 12% of our total sales, which if you, and I even brought some paperwork I pulled from online to show that no restaurant can function at higher than a 10% ratio of rent to profit. So functioning higher than that is extremely difficult to make ends meet and to be profitable. It definitely will cut into, I mean, we're all making it, but we're making it just very minimally. And I know 10% does tend to be a feel like if you go to different festivals, they do have a very high rent to be there. But if you've ever been to Penrod or Talbot or any festival kind of things, if you've noticed their food costs of what they charge the public to buy things is extremely high. So the cost of a drink or of if you're getting a taco would be well above what most people consider a fair price to pay, but they're at the festival and they have no other choice, so they have to buy the food there. Where people coming to the farmers market, we can't charge festival pricing on our food. We have to charge reasonable prices because customers have so much to choose from, and they're not at a festival. They want to have a fair price because half the food they buy from us, they don't eat right then and there. They're taking it home. They're taking home frozen tamales to eat later, or they're taking home they're taking home bread from Muddy Forks to eat at a different time. So they can't pay festival pricing on their food, so we have to charge them reasonable prices. So just please consider that when you're thinking about our percentage that you're charging.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name's Lucy Fishman. I've been a customer of Farmers Market for about 12 years, been in Bloomington for 22. I understand this board has been facing serious issues over the past market year, but what I find equally concerning, just not as headline-grabbing yet, is the fee structure for food and beverage artisans. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our community. Market is where small, unique food and beverage businesses can grow and thrive. We want to make Market as accessible as possible to food and beverage artisans, many of whom are women, immigrants, and minorities just starting their own businesses. Current fee structure is surprising to me, as other people have indicated tonight. I was shocked to learn from my favorite vendor, Eric Shetler of Muddy Fork Farms, that he has paid more for his 10 by 10 piece of unsheltered pavement on some Saturdays than Winter Market pays for the entire Switchyard Pavilion for a Saturday. I'd like to know that when I shop at Farmers Market, I'm buying from people who are treated fairly, and that I'm not enjoying a morning at market on their dime, on their backs. The breakfast and lunches that we buy, the prepared foods we can take home, are a huge draw for people coming to market. It's time to reconsider the fees for the food and beverage artisan vendors and align with common best practices at comparable markets, and that starts by adopting the fee recommendation of the Farmers Market Advisory Committee this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Fishman, and Mr. Coyne, Ms. Mills, you had an email from me about the equity issue, which I'm not going to talk about right now. Mr. Herrera, welcome to the board, and congratulations on your Provost's Award yesterday. I first want to say that I was here at the meeting last month, and I want to thank the board for its patience and for your service on a board during a very difficult period of time for advising the Parks Department. And normally after a period of 6 months like you've had, I would be very sympathetic to the Parks Department's recommendation that, yes, there are equity issues, but we've had so much on our plate, let's defer a decision for change for another time. But I'm not sympathetic this year because the vendors began raising this issue in 2017. At that point, it was too late to change the fee for the following year. 2018, again. Now we're at 2020, looking at the third year in a row of telling the vendors that it's too late to change the fee. And I just think from the perspective of good governance, you know, you on the board don't want to be sticking your hands in, you know, deciding whether the appropriate fee ought to be, 5.1% or 4.9%. And I can understand that the board might be hesitant to reject the recommendation from the department. But from a good governance point of view, I think in a situation where everybody, including the department, agrees this is an equitable situation, it's really not right to let the department defer at least some partial relief as the compromise from the advisory committee recommended. Just start with 5% next year and then work harder to solve the problem. After 3 years, unfortunately, I think it's time for the board to act a little bit more assertively and accept the compromise from the advisory committee and reject the request from the Parks Department. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other members of the public who would like to speak or? Okay, well, thank you very much to everyone for all those perspectives and also all of the people who couldn't be here who sent emails to us, very thoughtful emails with their opinions and their comments about the issue. So I think we'll take comments from other board members. Do you want to? Les?
First, let me thank all the folks who took a great deal of time and effort to put together some extremely thoughtful and well-developed opinions and notes. I also would like to thank everybody for how they appreciate the market. I've been involved, as I said the last time around, for a long time with this market. What I have learned from this exercise today is that this is a very complex issue. It's not just the prepared food, or as we now call them, artisan food and beverage vendors. It goes beyond that. It goes to fees related to the farm vendors. It goes to subsidies, and how do we arrive at subsidy levels? We have policies that have governed that successfully for a lot of years that SPIA helped us develop. I think that I still want to call them prepared food vendors, contribute substantially to the ambiance and the attractiveness of the farmers market. And I don't want to see that destroyed or disrupted. I also think that the farm vendors have a stake in this. I have argued quietly behind the scenes to my colleagues that I think the farm vendors are getting a very good deal. I think that all the people that participate in elements of that market, be they salsa demonstrators, be they arts fair people, be they market vendors of produce and apples, or prepared foods. The city took a huge leap of faith to continue this market a few weeks ago. And I want to protect as best I can the success of that market. And I'm going to tend to want to deal with the market issues that are raised tonight and others that are associated with continuing that market on a more global basis, a more macro basis. I think that we have to look at the entire fee structure for that market for all participants. I think that we have to look at space issues. What is the ratio we should have or would be appropriate or would the community like in terms of farm vending, prepared food vending, information alley, whatever. What I'm saying is I think if we're going to be successful long range with this market, and I hope we are because it's a huge part of the noted or real community feeling in this community, that we should take next year a very serious and hard look at all these issues and come out with some reasonable outcome that responds to these issues. I think that we need input, more direct input. We need maybe subcommittees made up of various stakeholders to tell their stories, which then brings me to where I'm at with this tonight. I'm inclined to vote yes for the proposal, and that we take a very serious, hard look at the fee issue and the subsidy issue. I've felt that way for a fair while now, and have not necessarily seen a lot of support for it. Quite honestly, if we would have done that maybe a few years ago, we wouldn't be in this position. But I'm not going to piecemeal it at this point. I think this is an opportunity to push this to this level, and I'm going to seize it by voting yes for the proposal.
Okay, Mr. Elder, you want to make a comment?
Right, yeah, this is a learning experience for me, and this is very important for me to hear people involved in this. I see, the cooperation between the food beverage artisans and also the farmers market. And this is my first meeting. I previously was in the Commission of Hispanic and Latino Affairs, and my issues in the city were related to the minority Hispanic Latinos, and I see that this is also a very important issue that I need to look at, but I would need more time to make a final decision, because there have been many things that are important to me, is to maintain both bodies, both groups, and it's important to have this kind of equity and fairness for everyone, because it's in a way, for a good living in our community, it's very important to have a fairness for everyone. So in this moment, if the motion is to vote, I would need to say abstention. And if there is the chance to work on this in a different meeting.
Okay. Well, I've already made a few comments at the outset. I went into this thinking that it's been such a rough, year for the market. Is this an issue that we want to deal with? Kind of referring to Rob Fishman's comments, like, whoa, after the last meeting, couldn't we just take a break? But I do feel like the food artisans have been raising this issue for some time. And I understand their frustration with it, to have another summer saying, let's look at it again. So I would like to vote no on the 2020 fees, and I would like to go back to the drawing table, I guess, on what, does the market have a 100% cost recovery goal? And also, I think Les makes some really interesting points about this, there's a lot of things there that we probably need to look at in terms of the pricing. So I guess should we make it official with I guess we don't have a motion because we have a yes.
I can present a motion.
Okay, sure, present a
happens.
motion and then we'll.
Okay. I move that we approve the proposal by the department regarding the prepared food or food and drink artisan fees to be sustained as is going into 2020 season.
Okay, so all those in favor, the 2020 fees?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no and abstain. Okay. So, I guess the only thing I regret is this I'm frustrated for the vendors. This is I know they were frustrated at the last meeting that we didn't get to this issue, and now we're still I suppose, stuck in some way again, but I just don't personally feel comfortable moving forward with this, with where we are right now, especially after so many thoughtful comments. So, all right, so we'll move on.
Let's
Yes,
have a declaration for the
Okay,
minutes.
okay.
So that she has an official record.
Okay, yes. Okay.
You got it? Okay, good.
Okay. We will see, oh my goodness, almost 5:15. What else we can get to here on our lengthy agenda? The next up is a review of the grant partnership agreement with Area 10 Agency on Aging.
I think we need to understand what just happened here. Since I'm not sure what's happened, but we need a lawyer here at this point, but you had,
yeah.
She is. Yeah, why don't you tell us what happened? An impasse.
An impasse, yes.
I'm Barbara McKinney, Assistant City Attorney, and I work with Parks on their legal issues. And this is a little confusing for me, actually. I think that the staff is going to have to rework the position and come back in March or in February and try to come up with something that meets their budgetary needs and that will get your approval. I'm not sure what else you could do at this point. I don't know what putting that back to February does to you. That's the question for you. But right now, you don't have a yes vote for the contract, so it can't be implemented. You need at least 2 votes.
Can we construe that the existing fees, we haven't voted on a fee structure, basically? So we don't know. We can't continue with what it is.
You did not approve fees for 2020. So what that means is we'll have to go back at staff, work with the comments that we received. We'll have to take a look at timelines and that. And I can't tell you right now without convening the staff who manage this area whether that will all be ready by the February 25th meeting or we bring it to you in March, but at this point, we do not have a fee that we can put into the contract to move the work that needs to be done for 2020 market season for this group.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you, Barbara. Yes, Becky. For now, okay. So we're at an impasse. We will find out, from your staff when you gather more information and, okay.
And then I also just want to let everyone know that we do not have to be out of the room at 5:30.
Oh,
so we would
okay.
like to move through the agenda so we can get the rest of the business done.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Becky, tell us about Area 10 Agency.
Becky Higgins, Recreation Services Division Director. Staff recommends approval of the grant partnership agreement with Area 10 on Aging. Funding source is Parks Non-Reverting Administration Account in the amount of $20,000. Background is due to the popularity, community support, and senior participation, the department would like to support Area 10 Enright East Active Living Community Center in 2020 through a $20,000 grant. The center demonstrated the ability to program and register over 400 senior citizens during the pilot operation period between June of 2019 and through December of 2019. The funding for operations will be provided through the Parks Administration non-reverting budget. And just to show that in June, the daily usage was 184, and by December, the daily usage was up to 490. So it has grown over the months and has become really popular. And Chris Myers was not able to make it today due to an emergency, so she is the director of Area 10.
Okay, great. Appreciate the pictures, too. That's a lot of growth, yeah. All right, great. So we have
We're ready?
a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really pleased to make this motion to approve the grant partnership agreement with Area 10 Aging on the Agency on Aging.
Okay, I'll second. Any public comment or question?
Just a quick comment.
Oh,
We
sure,
don't have
yeah.
much time, but I was very glad to see this, what I call a pop-up senior programming activity out at the mall. The mall currently has at least 6 or 7 vacant storefronts, and thank goodness Simon was willing to be very cooperative with this, and this is a nice thing to do. I'm really glad to see it.
Okay. Any public comment or questions about this motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. And then we have the partnership agreement with Monroe County Health Department.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jess Klein. I'm the Health and Wellness Coordinator for the department. Tonight, I recommend the approval of a partnership agreement with the Monroe County Health Department. This will be the first year that we are partnering with them on this particular initiative. What we would like to do is, as a pilot program for the duration of 2020, have Sharps containers installed in 3 of our parks, those being Seminary, Butler, and Building Trades Park. We have data supporting this decision, some of which is up there for you. In 2019 total, we gathered 816 syringes in all of our parks. As you can see, the 3 where we saw most of them were the 3 that we've chosen for this pilot program. So working together with the health department, the parks department will sort of handle the logistical end of things, having the containers installed and the inserts replaced when needed. The health department has offered to find the funding necessary to purchase those supplies. And then we will meet later this year to reevaluate how this is going and whether or not we would like to move forward with the same structure, if at all, in 2021. From the health department tonight, we have Cathy Hewitt over here. If you would like to get up, you're more than welcome to, but I wanted to acknowledge them and say thank you for their cooperation. And I'll answer any questions.
Okay. Do we
Motion?
have any questions or? Okay, not a question, just a comment, I think. Was it, I do remember, was it near Butler Park where we had a child that found a needle? I'm remembering some story in the last year or so.
I believe it's building and trades.
Building and trades,
in the
okay.
Playfield,
Yeah,
yes.
and probably not an isolated story, yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, this just seems like the direction that things are going, and again, we've seen really thoughtful comments from somebody who has experience with this in a similar community in Alaska, so. All right, so.
Motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we approve the partnership agreement with the Monroe County Health Department.
Okay, I'll second. Any public comment or question? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. All right, and then on a happier note, a historical marker placement in People's Park review, and that's Paula.
Hi, good afternoon. Paula McDevitt, Director of the Department. And I am here to recommend the placement of the Black Market Historical Marker in People's Park. And this project came to us from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. Erin Predmore, who I will invite up in a few minutes to talk about the process, she worked with a couple of community organizations and turned in an application to have this marker approved and then placed in the park. And just a brief history for those of you who are not aware of the history of People's Park, located downtown, that back in 1968, amidst sweeping political and social activism in the U.S., African-American student Clarence Rollo Turner led protests against racial discrimination, which were met with hostility. That fall, Turner opened the Black Market here at the location of People's Park, which sold products made in Africa or by African Americans and acted as a cultural center for Black students at Indiana University. On December 26, 1968, the Black Market was firebombed and the entire store was destroyed. Students, faculty, and community members raised funds to cover the store's inventory, and 2 Ku Klux Klan members were convicted of the arson. So, in 1970, Indiana University students began developing the vacant lot into People's Park, a space for activism, recreation, and free expression. And as we all know, People's Park attracts a lot of participants. We have a concert series there. It is where people go to sit, enjoy ice cream, read books. We have a small library there. So it's really very fitting and probably overdue that we get this designation and have the backing and support, and I'll invite Erin up, who has funded this whole project, and we also have a map of the site that we visited, and this is approximately where we'll put it, which is on the west side of People's Park. And with your approval today, then that will set in motion planning for an event that we like to do whenever we have something to celebrate, and I'll let Erin say a few words about the project. Erin?
Okay. Thank you, Paula, and thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about the historical marker. We're very excited at the Chamber of Commerce about this opportunity to acknowledge one of our Black-owned businesses in the community and to give voice to those individuals who were there early on. We've been working all year trying to expand our connection with the Black business community, and this is one of the projects that came out of it that we're excited to support. So I'm not sure if you guys have any questions specifically. We've been working with the Indiana Historical Society, and they're excited as well. So as soon as you guys say yes, I get to let them know, and they're going to make our marker for us.
No, I don't have any questions. I mean, I knew of the news story. I didn't realize for some reason it was in People's Park, the firebombing of that. So
I actually learned about it myself about this time last year, and I was stunned because we've not longtime residents of Bloomington, but have been here for several years and had never heard about it. And I think this is a great opportunity to let everyone in the community know about the history that's there, that's significant, and including the civil rights history that we have here.
yeah, no, that seems like a great addition. I think overdue, as Paula said. So yeah, okay.
Great idea.
Okay.
Motion?
Sure.
Okay, it's my pleasure to move approval of the historical marker placement in People's Park.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Unanimous.
Motion carried. Thank you. And then Paula will also tell us about the review of the amendment to the Buskirk-Chumley Theater Management.
Yes. So since 2001, we've presented a partnership agreement with Buskirk-Chumley Management for the management of Buskirk-Chumley Theater, and have always come before the board to approve the partnership in December. But 2019 was just one of those years that a lot of things were on our plate, so that didn't quite get done, both for the department and the theater, as they are currently in search of a new director. So through conversation in that, we are presenting and asking for your approval to the first amendment amendment to the 2019 partnership agreement, which in essence just extends the life of the partnership agreement through the end of February of 2020, and it is our full intention. We already have our partnership review meeting scheduled for February, but to bring you the full 2020 partnership agreement for your approval at the February meeting. So in essence, this amendment just extends the life of the 2019 partnership agreement. And Rebecca Stans is here from Buskirk-Chumley Theater Management. She is stepping in as interim director, so she's getting firsthand experience with the partnership agreement. If you'd like to say a few words.
Hello, Rebecca Stanzi, Interim Executive Director at the Buskirk-Chumley Theater, BCT Management. You're only being asked to approve a brief amendment today, but I never like to pass up the opportunity to say thank you for the partnership between our organizations. We had a busy year last year, 246 days of use at the theater, which doesn't include the senior pictures being taken on the stage or the independent film being shot in the lobby, all the community type events that happen that aren't official events. And that brings an amazing diversity of programming to the theater, to downtown Bloomington. And it's just a great time at the beginning of the year to reflect on what we're able to accomplish with the partnership between Parks and Rec and BCT Management, Inc., and I want to thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right. Have a motion, if we would.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the Buskirk-Chumley Theater Management Partnership.
Any public comment or question? Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. I second the motion. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And then Joanna Sparks, the service agreement with JB Salvage, yes.
Good afternoon, Joanna Sparks, City Landscaper, here once again to talk to you about the wonders of composting and sending green waste to the appropriate destination. And the landscaping department collects a lot of weedy material, woody material, and the entire operations division of the Parks Department utilizes the yard waste dumpster at Adams Street. And collectively, over the years, we have diverted over 45 tons of green waste from the landfill since the summer of 2016. Very proud of that. We already sent one dumpster full this year, so working on the next one. So we would just like to ask the board for approval for our continuing service agreement with JB Salvage. They provide a 30-yard, cubic yard yard waste dumpster for us and come whenever we need them to. And they also will bring them to remote locations so we can host invasive plant removal events, other places, and again, to be rid of the green waste that way. So.
Okay, great, excellent. All right. Yeah.
I'd like to move approval of the service agreement with JB Salvage for the green waste service.
I'll second. Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you very much.
Motion carried. And next up is a contract with Value Fence Company.
Hi, Dave Williams, Operations Director, subbing for Barb Dunbar. This is a contract with the Value Fence Company locally for the installation of fencing at Building Trades Park. A little bit of background, we've met with the Building Trades neighborhood, basically the Prospect Hill and Near West Side neighborhood associations and their members regarding concerns about safety and lack of fencing and lighting in certain areas of the park. I think we've addressed the lighting issues. The request was to try to control some of the walk-in traffic, pedestrian traffic from the east side of the park via private property onto park property, and to better delineate our eastern border, which is included in about 300 feet of fencing on the east border of the park. And then there was a request to provide fencing for the playground area. We have a standard of fencing around larger community park playgrounds. The most prominent example is probably the tot lot at Bryant Park on North Henderson. Obviously, Henderson is a heavily traveled street. Parking lot is nearby. We do not have a standard of fencing each individual playground in a park, but we're aware of any issues with adjoining streets. Howe Street is a very lightly traveled street, but we have had for years a split rail fence to give caution to children or parents as to where to enter and exit the playground areas and around the restrooms. We'd like to replace that with permanent black vinyl 4-foot fencing. So we've communicated this plan with the neighborhood, and they seem to be agreeable to it, and we will continue to talk about other park improvements and behaviors at Building Trades Park, but our request is to approve a contract for $8,215 with Value Fence Corporation. This is a TIF bond-funded project.
Okay. Thank you for that background, especially about the
You're welcome.
guidelines on
You're welcome.
fencing playgrounds. So, all right. Should we
Motion?
move? Yeah.
I'd like to move approval of contract with Value Fence Company.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And next up, we have a contract with Lambert Consulting Marker. Julie Ramey.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Ramey, the Community Relations Manager for the Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm coming to you this afternoon to request your approval of a contract for digital media marketing services with Lambert Consulting. This is a marketing budget item that comes from Community Relations. Lambert Consulting has provided social media management services for Cascades Golf Course since April 2019, and our initial agreement with them ended in December. In that amount of time, all of our page insights increased dramatically, and we went from around 2,000 impressions pre-April to more than 200,000 impressions in December. They fulfilled all of the requirements of their trial contract period, including monthly reports and details about the most successful posts and items that our public was interested in and relevant content. And we find them extremely valuable in positioning Cascades Golf Course in a very competitive market and to continue to maintain our revenue goals for things like tee times, for rentals of the new Cascades Golf Course clubhouse, our junior golf programs in the summer, and the driving range. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Just a quick comment.
Yeah.
This is the future. Congratulations, Julie, and the folks that went this way. Okay, motion?
Yes, please.
Move approval of a contract with Lambert Consulting Marker.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
And Dave Williams is back up with RCA Trail Rehab.
Yes, the next couple of items are addendums for the RCA Park Trail Rehab Project. A little background here as well. We bid the project last spring, got one bid, but from a very reputable and highly recommended contractor who his niche is to do boardwalks and kind of backwoods construction, Scenic Solutions, but we ran into his schedule. We decided to accommodate it because we want him to do the work. They are on site as we speak, but we need to extend his completion date for the actual construction from December of 19 till October. I'm saying October because that's more than enough time. They are on site. I expect them to be out by Memorial Day, but we get caught up in the addendums for dates, so I'm giving myself plenty of extra room and accommodating the contractor. It will be worth the wait, and we got the project where we want it budget-wise. We just obviously have to have a competent contractor to perform the work. So we're trying to work with him, and again, they have met their commitments saying when they would be on site, and they are on site. I've confirmed that as of today. So we're recommending or requesting approval to extend the completion date for their construction contract until April 31st, 2020.
Okay.
Just a quick question for Dave.
Yes, sir.
I assume, since you're bringing it back with them, that you have confidence that their track record also suggests that they will do it.
Yes, and I've also, not only do I have it, our consultant has it, and we're also talking to the same contractor who's been very helpful to us in another bond project at Lower Cascades Park for a walkway to the waterfall.
Yeah,
It's
good.
specialized construction, so when we can get them, and they're, again, recommended, we want to make sure they do the work for us.
Super. Okay, motion?
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I move approval of the contract addendum with Scenic Construction for the RCA Trail Rehab.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carried, and we have another contract addendum with Mater Design.
Same story, but Jeff Mater with Mater Design not only did the design and the bidding documents, but he has a role in part-time inspection and also review and approval of applications for payment from the contractors. So we are also wanting to extend his contract for this project at RCA Park until October 31st as well. Same reasons.
Okay. I move approval of a contract addendum with Mater Design for the RCA Park Trail Rehab.
Okay, I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Dave. And Crystal Ritter will tell us about the 2020 Performing Arts Series Performance Agreement.
Hello, Crystal Ritter, Community Events Coordinator. I am here today to recommend the approval of the 2020 Performance and Entertainment Agreement template. This is a template agreement that we use for the People's Park Concert Series, Summer Performing Arts Series, as well as the performance agreement that we use for various events that Parks and Recreation puts on or partners with throughout the year. These are events including performers or entertainers at the pumpkin launch, holiday market, and various other events that we do throughout the year. This agreement outlines both the expectations on the part of the department in terms of the arrival time, performance time, length of performance, as well as the agreements that we will hold to as the Parks Department in terms of weather cancellations and thereforth. So we are excited this year to add to our Performing Arts Series and include Switchyard Park as a new venue for this year. And this agreement will allow us to partner with, or to contract musicians to perform in these various series throughout the summer. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Questions, or you want to make a motion?
No, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, I move approval of the 2020 Performing Arts Series Performance Agreement.
I'll second. Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
carried. Thank you, Crystal. And next up, the Hilltop Garden Agreement. Pretty soon it'll be gardening weather.
I hope.
Hi, I'm Sarah Mullen, Community Garden Specialist, and I'm here to seek approval of the partnership agreement with the Hilltop Garden at Indiana University. The purpose of this agreement is to establish a partnership that supports collaborative garden education programming and sharing of resources between the Parks Department and Hilltop at Indiana University. The Parks Department uses indoor and outdoor space at Hilltop for garden education, and we work on cross-promotion of events, collaboration among staff, and this spring we'll have 2 classes at Hilltop, and we'll be having a few classes at the new Switchyard Park Pavilion.
With the raised garden bed area, or?
Just in the pavilion.
In the
for
pavilion.
spring.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we'll have some at Hilltop and some at the Switchyard.
Okay. All right, great.
Do it?
Yeah.
Okay, I move approval of the partnership with Hilltop Garden.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Sarah. And you have another community gardens contract, yes.
Yep, so this one, the staff recommends approval of the 2020 Community Garden Agreement. And just a little background on that, this agreement outlines the responsibilities of individuals who rent garden plots at any of our 3 community garden sites. In 2019, we added 12 new plots at Butler Park for a total of 220 plots. available at our 3 sites. In 2020, we'll have a total of 241 plots for rent. We plan to add 3 additional plots at Butler and 39 new raised beds at Switchyard Park. So just a little plug, the plots, the rental for new gardeners begins on February 19th. We have made a few changes to the contract, and they're pretty small, but the changes that have been made include closing some plots at Willie Streeter for remediation due to an aggressive spreading of invasive weeds. And then we're also working closely with the city landscaper and her team to actively address the issue. Related to that closure, we've extended the season extension area in Willie Streeter, and we also have made some adjustments to the maintenance request deadlines to more effectively address some of the maintenance issues that we've been having.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, of the total garden beds, then are they usually all or close to all rented out by people for the season?
I don't think that we will be affected by, we have more plots still available than we rented last year. So I don't think that the closure will affect, it definitely will not affect anyone who's rented last year. If they had to move, we've found them another spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move approval for the contract agreement for the community garden program.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, Leslie Brinson is going to tell us about the food truck contract template.
We are actually going to table the food truck and food artisan contract until we have discussion about the pricing, because that is included in the contract. So we will bring the contract back to you once we have information on that pricing determined.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I am going to talk to you about the Farmers Market Advisory Council update
Bylaw
policies.
updates. Yes, okay.
Leslie Brinson, Community Events Manager. Nice to meet you and welcome. I am here to recommend approval of some updates to the Farmers Market Advisory Council policy. This policy has been reviewed and edited by legal and hasn't been updated since 2012. So the staff have reviewed the Farmers Market Advisory Council policy to reflect the addition of 2 new members of the council. So we are extending from 9 to 11 to add 2 representatives from the food and beverage artisan group. The food and beverage artisans would serve 1-year terms on the council because that is what their food and beverage artisan contract allows them to do at the market. They have to renew and apply every year. So if they did not receive a spot at the market, then they would have to, so their term will be associated with their contract at the market. Due to the timing of the food and beverage artisan selection process, we are also asking that you allow us to extend by 1 month the current Farmers Market Advisory Council terms so that we can renew and add members all at the same time and not have to do it in stages. So all current members would extend their yearly term for 1 month to make that happen. This allows us, again, to start all new members in April and then set the precedent and timing moving forward from that point. We have also updated some of the language just regarding the appeals process for anyone at the market and how that would go through the advisory council and eventually, if needed, come in front of you as well. Those are the only changes that were made to the policy, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, it does seem smart to extend it by a month and have a smooth transition there. Yes, and as we noted earlier, the prepared food vendors did ask to have some representation on the advisory council, and the department's been good enough to extend that. So,
and we will have, just as a plug, not only these 2 members coming open in April, but I believe we will have 5 additional seats on the advisory council that will become available through vacancies of term expirations.
Good plug, yes. So if you're out there and you want to have some input on the advisory council, yes.
Question regarding the current board. Is there any Hispanic or Latino
There is no
representation?
diversity on our current Farmers Market Advisory Council. They are, there's no diversity currently, but it has been and will be an effort and a concentration of ours to make sure that we advertise the vacancies in a place, in a wide variety of locations where people can have access to them of all diverse backgrounds.
And one more question is, there used to be several or different Latinos and Hispanic vendors, so I'm wondering if there might be more potential vendors for the new season?
Sure, we will be putting out the the farm vendor contract soon, and we have also created a list of places that we can advertise that farm vendor contract to hopefully get the word out to, again, a more diverse and varied crowd, as well as our food and beverage. Our RFP went to a wider variety of groups that we normally would not have sent it to, so we're using city resources through community and family resources to make sure that we get the information out through as many outlets as possible, but we are also open to suggestions of where we can put that information so that it gets out in the right hands.
Just a quick comment. I assume this is totally plugged into the effort that the family and community development folks are working on, so.
Yes, we are working closely with community and family resources, both in this aspect as well as moving forward with Market 2020 and events and how we can, create that more welcoming, broadening experience, as well as through the Broadening Inclusion Group, which is a subcommittee of the Advisory Council, which does have some Latino representatives on that committee that are also helping us figure out ways that we can do a better job in that area.
Ready? Yeah. I move approval of the FBA and food truck contract template.
Oh, the one
Advisory
under-
Council.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
I got to catch up here. Approval of Farmers Market Advisory Council bylaws and updates.
I'll
Of course.
second. Any public comment or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
And it is softball purchase time.
Yes. Scott Peterson, Youth Sports Coordinator. It's our annual routine, I guess, to order softballs, and this is what this is. I'm seeking approval to purchase softballs for the city of Bloomington and the adult leagues that we have and tournaments that we host. The USA Softball of Indiana has a purchasing agreement with Worth, Rawlings, Sports, Dudley, and DeMarini to provide softballs at a discount to any USA Softball of Indiana sanctioned agency in which the city of Bloomington is sanctioned by the USA Softball of Indiana. So they're discounting our softball purchase order. I'm seeking approval for this purchase, and I have around 200 dozen that we will be ordering this year, varying in 11-inch and 12-inch softballs, adult slow pitch. And from last year, the difference from last year to this year is each dozen on average, if not the normal, went up $1 a dozen for the tariff that everyone seemed to be affected by. So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I move approval of the USA softball purchase.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right. Thank you, Scott. All right, and next up, Rebecca, yes, a review of appointments to the Environmental Resource Advisory Council.
Yes. Hello, Rebecca Jania, Natural Resources Coordinator for the city. Staff recommends approval of Environmental Resources Advisory Council appointments of Jeff Eman, Angie Shelton, Denise Gardner, and Bill Jones. The Common Council has also appointed Sue Scambilleri as a new council liaison. The Environmental Resources Council, otherwise known as ERAC, acts as an advisory board for Bloomington Parks and Recreation in all policy matters pertaining to operations of city natural areas and/or facilities. ERAC is made up of 9 members and 1 ex officio member. There are currently 4 positions on the advisory council up for reappointment. All 4 applications were received from current members of ERAC, and staff values the input of members seeking reappointment and would be pleased to have them serve another term. Okay. Happy to answer any questions, and welcome.
Yeah, I would just say so much valuable advice over the years from people who are donating their time on the Environmental Resources Advisory. So, yeah, that's really great to have them.
quick comment.
Yeah.
These are folks that have a huge amount of knowledge and expertise in this area. We probably have one of the most notable aquatics people on that advisory board. And then the work that Angie has done with respect to the preservation of Griffey is amazing. So I think communities would die for a board like this.
Group of
advisory
rock stars
group.
in my mind, for sure.
All right.
Okay. I move approval of appointments to the Environmental Resources Advisory Council.
I'll second. Any public comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, and John Turnbull is going to tell us about the contract with Milestone Contractors.
Good afternoon, John Turnbull, Division Director of Sports. Welcome, Israel. I haven't met you before, but warm welcome to you on the board. We seek your recommendation or approval for this contract with Milestone Contractors for what you see here is an overlay pavement for this parking lot. Out at Twin Lakes, there are several springs, as you're probably very aware, and through the years, it has stained the asphalt and created a lot of minerals on the parking lot. So as part of the general obligation bond, we were allowed to seek bids for this project. We were very happy with the outcome of the bids, as Milestone bid $77,900 for the project. The other bids were considerably higher. 1, 2, 3. There were 4 other bids. The next closest was almost $97,000. So we would like to proceed with this project with your approval.
Okay.
Okay. I move approval of the contract with Milestone Contractors, LP.
I'll second. Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Just
Oh,
one
I'm sorry.
comment. One
Yeah.
quick historical comment. People in the community have forgotten, and John and many of you here know, that that was built on a lake bed with potentially huge drainage problems. And there's a drainage system underneath it that is very substantial. And so I'm amazed that we haven't had more of these kind of problems before now. It's a good job. Okay.
All right, I didn't see any public comment or question, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, thank you, John. And Mark, bringing up the rear here, service agreement.
Feeling a little lonely in here.
Negative.
Thankful you guys are here with me. Welcome, Mr. Herrera. Mark Sterner, General Manager of the Twin Lakes Recreation Center. I'm here with a pretty simple one. This is Gilly's Home Sales and Service agreement, and it is for the service of our equipment, preventative maintenance to our equipment at the Twin Lakes Recreation Center, so all of our treadmills and weight resistance machinery. There are no changes to the agreement this year, so pretty simple. Definitely a complicated one because with companies that we've worked with in the past, they show up, they identify the problem, then they have to go back and order the part, and then we schedule them to come back for another visit. So there's a lot of lag time in terms sometimes of equipment being down. We've learned to work on a lot of the equipment ourselves and order the parts ourselves. If it's something that we can fix, we fix it on our own. But as mentioned, there are no changes to this agreement.
Okay, thank you for the background there.
Okay, I move approval for the service agreement with Giles Sales and Service.
I'll second. Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Mark. All right, and Paula? You have like a 30 or 40-minute presentation?
During the meeting, but I did want to thank you all and want to say an official welcome to Israel. You first meeting down, and you'll find that not only your colleagues on the board, but also the staff will be very, very helpful and are always available to answer any questions because this is a lot of information. So we'll be happy to support you in that. So my only other reminder is the next meeting is February 25th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned.